Hey y'all, I'm Ashley, a Black woman and forever a Black girl from the South Side of Chicago. Growing up, the women in my family taught me the importance of creating my own space to cultivate joy and express my creativity. I found that space at the skating rink. The skating rink for me was a portal. It transported me back from girlhood to the infinite possibilities of being a Black woman and back again. I rolled through the sounds of Black music while the bright lights illuminated my dark skin as the cool air brushed through my coily hair, giving me a sense of what freedom feels like. Just like the wheels of a roller skate, our lives take us on new journeys. And my journey has led me here to the Rolling Archives podcast, a digital scrapbook of Black girlhood, a celebration of the magic we are made of as we float through the ups and downs and journey through Black girlhood on our own terms. Hey y'all, it's Ashley, and welcome to the Rolling Archives podcast. So I'm gonna have y'all roll with me for a second. I'm asking you to take a trip back with me to my early years as a grad student. I was becoming aware of all the ways that Black girls were experiencing school, the ways that they were being hyper-disciplined, the ways that they were being punished, and just all the ways that they were facing school in very harmful ways. I grew up in an era when there was less focus on Black girls. So we were always told that Black girls were doing okay, they're fine, they're excelling academically, we were just good. But underneath a lot of that was a ton of pain and silence due to just simply being ignored. So, as I'm trying to finish out my PhD, I'm doing research and I'm becoming deeply invested in what researchers and scholars have to say about Black girls' experiences. But as time went on, I actually became more invested in what Black girls themselves had to say about their experience, both inside and outside of the school building. And so I became very immersed in this beautiful field called Black Girlhood Studies, which is still somewhat of an emerging field, but that a lot of scholars and researchers, and Black women in particular, have worked to create to focus on Black girls. But here in Black Girlhood Studies, we don't just study Black girls. We seek to create space for them to also contribute to this field, whether it's through their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, their artwork, their writing, even some of their dances, y'all. Black Girlhood Studies is really a field of study that is about working alongside Black girls as collaborators, as co-theorizers, and also in a way that we co-create space together for their well-being. I've had my own experiences creating spaces with Black girls, both in middle school and in high school, in an after-school group that we collectively decided to call Black Girl Magic. And so this was a space where the girls could honestly just 100% be themselves. They could let their guard down. They could get rid of all of these extra pressures and expectations that are placed on Black girls to be perfect. But most importantly, it was where they could share their truths. And so, in this beautiful field, I too have learned directly from Black girls what it looks like to be real about our day-to-day and to dream about a more beautiful world for all of us. So, let me ask y'all to think about this question as you're listening to this episode. If you had to tell a story about your Black girlhood or your childhood, where would you begin? This is exactly where the work of Black Girlhood Studies starts. I am so very honored to welcome a scholar whose work has been foundational to the developments of the field of Black Girlhood Studies, Dr. Ruth Nicole Brown, aka Dr. Brown, aka Ruth Nicole. Dr. Ruth Nicole grew up in the Chicago area, nurtured by bold and determined practices of collective possibility. She is a professor and inaugural chairperson of the Department of African American and African Studies at Michigan State University. She is the author of 2 canonical books in Black Girlhood Studies. The first being Black Girlhood Celebration, toward a Hip-Hop Feminist Pedagogy, which is celebrating its sweet 16th anniversary, published in 2009. And the second book, Hear Our Truths, The Creative Potential of Black Girlhood. She has also co-edited several anthologies and has written numerous journal articles on the subject of Black girlhood. Ruth Nicole not only writes about Black girls and Black girlhood studies, but she has put this work into action, y'all, in the curation of collective spaces that celebrate Black girlhood as the founder of SOLHOT, which lovingly stands for Saving Our Lives, Hear Our Truth. SOLHOT was founded in 2006 and seeks to celebrate Black girlhood by meeting Black girls face to face and heart to heart. Ruth Nicole's work alongside Black girls in SOLHOT has truly been the blueprint for what scholars today and even myself describe as Black girl spaces. And so you can find Dr. Brown doing the healing work of connecting with those who have resisted their own destruction since the beginning of time. You can find her laughing with Black girls as they create knowledge about Black girlhood in the same halls where they are routinely silenced. Dr. Ruth Nicole Brown, it is truly an honor to be in your presence and to share space with you today. I am so grateful. I can honestly say that none of my work, my scholarship, the way that I think about Black girls, and even here, this Rolling Archives podcast and project would even exist without the beautiful and groundbreaking work that you have created for us. And so I thank you, and here today want to give you your flowers. So everybody from your homes, your cars, your office, wherever you are, please clap it up and welcome the OG homegirl, Dr. Ruth Nicole Brown. Hello, Dr. Ruth Nicole. How are you feeling today?
Hello, Ashley. This is amazing. Thank you for that generous, thoughtful, sincere introduction. I every time you speak, I'm listening because there's just something in your voice that just translates to me as completely authentic, real, about it, study, and I just love it. Of course, I'm a reader of your work and am so grateful for all the ways that you are working extremely hard to define this field of Black girlhood studies that we both love, want to nurture, and have given so much um, of our life too. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have you here. So as part of the Rolling Archives podcast, we really kind of like to take a trip down memory lane. We want to hold on to those Black girlhood memories, as you know. And so I am gonna have you take us back to what are some core memories for you as a Black girl that keeps returning to you in the future.
I love this question, especially because I often don't write about my personal life in my work. I mean, I am extremely vulnerable and intimate when it comes to documenting soul hot, our creative practices, processes, experiences, but don't really dip too much into my girlhood experiences. So I really appreciate this question. Of course, I think about core memories in my girlhood related to holidays and my dad. My dad transitioned in 2020, and so he's always with me, of course, now. And I always just think about how big he made the holidays for me. In so many ways. And so, for example, when I think about Christmas, I think about my dad's homemade fudge, and of course, the soundtrack of our Christmases, which he DJ'd. He was also a DJ. Acts of service with my mom, which I did not always appreciate. But
Mm.
a good day to my mom was us going to the nursing home, us going to the senior citizens building and sharing in hospitality. Me following behind her at some church event that was probably social more than it was necessarily religious, because it was, during the week. So it
Mm.
was the feeding program, it was the tea, it was all those things, which are core memories for me and my girlhood. I was an outside girl. I loved to play outside. So I have very sweet memories of the swings. I always went to the swings. Like, how high could I fly?
Mm.
I was always thinking about levitation, I guess.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love this idea of the swing. I don't know what it is about the swing, but I also used to like go to the swing and see how high I could fly and then jump off.
Yeah, job, certain job. And I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the memories I had at the rink. So
Mm,
roller skating, which is why I'm absolutely in love with the rolling archives. I cannot wait. We also have done some roller skating and SOLHOT for sure.
yeah.
But my girlhood memories, I mean, it was all about like what outfit I was gonna wear. I could skate, but I wasn't like a skater. Like it was serious where I was from. I couldn't, fancy tricks, but I could roll. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was all about like who's gonna be at the rink and crushes and all that. Good memories. Good. The Star Flyer. I actually wrote a poem about the Star
Mm.
Flyer, which was the rink. That was one of our favorites.
Okay, okay. So the Star Flyer. Okay, where exactly was that rink? Because I know you grew up in Chicago. I did too.
Yeah, I grew up. Yes, I know. So I'm from the south suburbs of Chicago. I was born in Chicago Heights, raised in Park Forest, and now my family moved back to the Heights. So the Heights
Okay.
is um, very much home as much as Park Forest, and the Star Flyer was actually in Chicago Heights.
Okay, okay, okay.
Where
I used to skate a lot at the rink on 87th, but then eventually my like home rink became Rich City, which was also out in the suburbs in Richton Park. So,
oh,
yeah.
they renamed that.
Yep.
I used to go
Yep.
to that one, which I forgot the first name of that. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
we went to the rink, which is like
Yeah.
that's the rink.
Yeah.
Spent some time at Glenwood too. At the rink.
Yep, Glenwood too. Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is so special. I also like really resonate with and want to sing you love. My father also passed in 2020, and so it's just like a very interesting time to think about family and just what they mean to us and like how central they are to our childhood.
Yes.
With that, so you talked about your mom, you talked about your dad, and you also talked about like just being outside as a young Black girl. How would you describe young Ruth Nicole?
Okay. Can I ask if you don't mind?
Mm.
What's your dad's name?
His name was Stanley Smith.
Stanley Smith. I will know
Yeah.
and remember Ashley's dad, Stanley Smith.
Thank you. Thank you.
You- Thank you,
What's your father's name?
Lawrence Anthony Brown.
Lawrence Anthony Brown.
Yep. No, I remember.
Yeah.
And okay, so the question was about. Sorry.
How would you describe young Ruth Nicole?
Young me, I was quiet. I'm still very much, I self-describe as an introvert.
Mm.
Um, and for sure, when I was young, I was maybe even more introverted. I mean, another way for me to say it is I had a vibrant internal creative life.
Yeah.
And I was extremely observant. Uh, I think I would use the word shy. That's how I experienced myself. I think
Mm.
others maybe experienced me as well, my best friends still. They were like, you were popular. It didn't feel like that. I was raised by a mom who I felt like was intentionally raising me as a Black feminist. So
Mm.
what maybe folks call popular was just maybe my sense of self-determination. Even as it was quiet, it was always present. So I felt very capable. But I like to like I feel like if I were to go back, you would see me watching everything, wide-eyed.
Mm. Mm. Okay, that's really important. I want to, for the listeners, because you say your mom was raising you to be a Black feminist, like what does Black feminism mean to you? Both like from the academic sense, but also in the everyday, in the ways that your mom was raising you.
Mhm. And she didn't necessarily use that language.
Mm-hmm.
First, my mom was an avid reader. We spent a lot of time at the public library. That was my mom's desires, but also something that I too easily loved. And so reading in our house was like serious adult business. Like if you were about this adult life, if you were grown, you were reading a book. And I always, of course, as a child was curious about what it meant to be grown. And what I learned from my mother, it meant like reading Jade California Cooper, Alice Walker. Like I used to sneak in like what are the titles of my mom's like nightstand, and I like just recorded those. Like I'm gonna read those books one day. When we went to the library, I went to the children's section. My mom would be off elsewhere. Um, but yeah, so one was this concept of study and criticality that was just
Mm.
how I was raised. Of course you must read. Of course you must ask questions. I mean, what Tony K wrote as the correct questions, my mom was also insistent on those.
Mm,
And learning how to read the world, how to read the page, how to read the compass of my own heart was something that I was rewarded for as a child, because that was also seen as important in my house. Self-determination was really important. A sense of celebrating what it
mm,
meant to be a Black girlhood was like air. And the celebrations were internal. I mean, it was a lot of just internally forced, like external validation. And I think maybe that's a class thing about where I'm from, but we weren't big on that. Actually, that was like, it absolutely do not chase that. Like,
mm,
there was like some lessons there. Certainly in terms of politically. So growing up working class, having talks around our house about work and structure and hierarchy was normal. My dad worked the night shift. And so that also just informed our daily practice and what it meant to be a daughter of a night shift worker, was relevant to everything we did, even in terms of how I played, because then the day
mm,
becomes something else. You have to be quiet.
mm,
So dad can sleep during the day so he can go to work. And so that was a real thing, but class solidarity was really important, and also aligned with that, like my sense of what socialism was, all of that I learned from my mom. And I learned those
mm,
lessons on the daily, like at the grocery store. She was teaching me lessons about valuation and something on sale and what value really is about. Whether she was talking about have she was talking about the price of greens. They didn't charge her, they upcharged her, they didn't give her the sale price. And I mean, my mom gave a great class at the cashier about valuation, socialism, free for
mm.
everybody, food justice, all of that at the same time. That was my mom on the daily. And when that hand went on her hip is when class started for me.
Mm.
Everybody else,
Wow.
public education it was at its finest. And my mom was so ill with it too. So
Mm. So this is like making sense, and I love hearing like these backstories because it's making sense how you're actually bringing on this legacy of like always being in a observant, like steady place, always in the Black girlhood celebration of it all, right? Thinking about what does it mean to be in service to our people. And so how can you just like give us a little snapshot of like how you got into doing the work? Like what brought you to this field of Black girlhood studies, which I'm not sure even if you could share with the listeners, like was it formerly Black girlhood studies when you were writing, when you were thinking, like how did you get to the work that you started to do, especially with Black Girlhood Celebration?
when I started, especially as a doctoral student, there was no field of Black girl studies. I had to create it. And this is a long story. I'm gonna try to be brief, but certainly to your point, so much of my childhood informed, I think, the thought and the thinking that I could bring something into existence that didn't exist, because yeah, I saw my dad get up and go to work when he didn't feel like it. Like I saw him create things with his hands. He was an electrician that didn't exist before. My mom, I saw her create a world of beauty like so easily, with thrifted materials and a lot of love at her homegirl. So I grew up certainly with these influences, and let me see. I'm fast forwarding through all kind of pivotal moments, but as a graduate student in the discipline of political science, um, I knew that I was always interested in the connections, intersections between culture, politics, art, power, community. And I went to a department that was very heavily focused on voting behavior.
Mm,
And it was, I wrote about it. It was not a great experience. It was horrible, actually, save for a few
mm,
blessings that I continue to give thanks for. So the university had these offices programs under community engagement. And I was like, that's close. That's closer. And somehow, which I don't remember the first instance, but I learned about a girl empowerment program and they needed graduate student volunteers or they welcomed them. And I was like, sure, because it is wonderful being a girl and I want to celebrate that. And girl empowerment was all the rage, everything at this time in the 90s, early 2000s. And I volunteered with this program, wrote my dissertation on it, long story short. And one of the findings that I wrote in my dissertation that I shared with the organizers was that the program, as girl empowerment metrics were at the time, were about increasing girls' voice, a sense of themselves. And I noticed that the Black girls in the programs that I was a part of, that the more Black girls expressed their voice, the more they took up space, the more they demonstrated and acted as an empowered individual, they would actually get in trouble for either in the program or in their schools. And I thought this is a paradox. And we could do better by Black girls in these girl empowerment spaces. And I shared that information with the organizers at the time of the program, and they were receptive to it and then asked me a question that stayed with me, which was like, okay, we take your feedback and point us to show us someplace where they do right by Black girls and works as you think it should. And at that time, I had nothing. I mean, and I'm looking around like, okay, Black girl programs, like, and I couldn't find anything. And I was like, I don't have an example to point you to. This is before Black Girl Magic and all of that. And so I just kept that with me. Like I didn't know. I didn't have an answer for them, a good one. And so then I went on to my postdoctoral study. I'm still staying with that question. I'm recovering from the trauma of grad school as a postdoc, and I am actively deciding if I'm going to stay in the academy. And that postdoc year was critical for me. I actually, thankfully, to God be the glory, I got another postdoc year. So it ended up being 2 years. But I took that time to make some commitments to myself. If I were going to stay in the academy, I would do these few things. And one of those promises that I made is that Black girls would be at the center of all of my work. And I created SOLHOT as a postdoc that year. I mean, it was really from the space of the unknown of how to answer that question. At the same time, I had gained a lot of skills in that very same program about working with young people. I also had a few memorable graduate school experience that changed my life for the better. That also, I guess, coupled or built on it with the influences that I had as a young person, that I could do something, I could create something. And then I also just had my complete dissatisfaction with the discipline of political science and how even writing about Black girls in that field for my dissertation, I had to use the theoretical framework of political socialization, because how do they understand folks as political when they're not yet voting age was a thing. And so they were like, you had political socialization and you have to use that. And I was like, that is so insufficient for the universe of things that Black girlhood is bringing that I know. And so as a postdoc, I was like, let me just start bringing all of this research. Who has written about Black girls? And it was, a literary text. And so we know, for example, The Color Purple is iconic. I'm going back through the mental Rolodex of my mom's nightstand. Like, there were Black girls in those books. I'm piecemealing it together. I'm thinking about the historians, Wilma King, Joyce Ladner. Their work was really influential because they had Black girls in their work. And I cobbled it, pieced it together from everywhere I could, and talked about Black Girlhood Studies as a thing, because that's one of the academic routines that we have to perform, right? It's like, what's your theoretical framework? What's the context for understanding this really important question? And I was like, my context, my whole thing has to be Black Girlhood Studies. And so I just named it. We named it. Those of us doing the work of SOLHOT. It was been very much collective from the beginning. Students who came to the class, I taught this class called Black Girlhood. It's like, let me see who comes. And the folks who came were so dope and amazing. Then I had this idea for SOLHOT that honestly came to me spiritually, like
Mm.
dream. Like it wasn't planned. It wasn't um I didn't yeah, it was so much of the unknown. Even the name of it just
Mm.
came, and I knew what the work would be. I knew it'd be collective. I knew it would be creative. I knew that it would celebrate Black girls. And I knew that the work would be so big that it couldn't just be me. So I went into like, okay, who are the people I'm making in my mind? This is the revolution. And I'm like, who do I want at the revolution with me? And I just knew some very dope people, made some pitches to them that the revolution was going down. It was called SOLHOT. It's gonna be at the Boys and Girls Club on Friday, and please join. And some amazing people did, and it's been they say ever since, which was quite a surprise.
Mm. Mm-hmm. So you said the program that you were working with, right? Like was in so many ways encouraging girls, right, to have a voice, to share their experience, to be loud. But then when Black girls would do that, they would get punished. So as you're creating So Hot and you're creating it collectively with folks, what was the way in which you actually got to this place of, which is so much of what your work is about, right? Is like listening to, hearing, and working alongside Black girls so that they aren't punished in So Hot. Like, how did you all create a space for them to be loud, to be honest, to be truthful about everything, and to just be?
Thank you for that question. And also, if like I want to nuance it because I'm hearing you repeat it back, and that's helpful. I want to be clear too. Like
Uh,
the punishment that it wasn't necessarily overt, and it wasn't necessarily even coming from the programs, but it would be like we'd have a great session in this girl empowerment program, but here comes the school administrator with the list of
mm,
girls who are in trouble. And it's like, wow, this girl who was just amazing here is also like, what's going on? It would look like that. Or in the program, it would look like it was all girls, and we have to put somebody up for an award, or someone was being celebrated, and it was really the Black girl who was chosen as the example success or a leader. So it was also in those very like tacit ways in which they were undermined, or not seen, or marginalized, or ignored. And when I did So Hot, of course, I was like, all I knew was that wasn't going to happen in So Hot. And I, I don't know. I didn't know that much. I didn't know like the method of it. Like we started with structure and ritual. So we knew there would be a way we would start with dance, and I feel like the language has evolved. So now it was dance for us and So Hot then, but now we would say like we started with the somatic practice,
mm,
right? It's literally the same thing. Then we have big group, then we have small group, we have some art, and we close with know and remember as a way to honor our grief. In that way, we were so ahead of our time, and how we
mm,
are able to be grief literate in a society that just isn't. It's still one of the amazing, miraculous works of So Hot. But actually I didn't know. I didn't know what happened was we would do So Hot, and then like my spidey senses would go off because I'm like, wait a minute. So in the space of So Hot, it was primarily Black, and we say you were either a Black girl or you love Black girls. Those
mm,
who love us was, and then again, I feel like that language is also now so helpful in this current political moment. Another way we were ahead. Um, Everybody was always welcome to So Hot, so long as you said you loved us.
mm,
If you didn't identify as Black yourself. And even that was complicated with the girls in some really, I think, theoretically sophisticated ways. But let me try to stick with the question. So this is what the group looked like. And then in our first couple of sessions, Spidey senses, because I'm like, oh, wow, okay, this group demographically looks different than the group I worked with, but I'm noticing some of the same dynamics showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what's going on? I'm curious about that. And lots of conversation, lots of observation. And I have to credit some really courageous and vulnerable folks who I worked with that shared, like, okay, we in SOLHOT, and I mean, one of the easy examples to share was like during a session, a homegirl would be like, Dr. B, she disrespected you. She just like, what we gonna do about that? And I was like, what was the disrespect? And what we gonna do about that? And really thinking through these things. And so another way I might say it now in hindsight, and this is with the perspective of all of the 16 years, is that some of the same structures that we were working so hard against do show up in the work. And actually, you know, had I had the training that I wanted, I would have known to plan for that. But again, I was so fighting against the training I received that I couldn't even think as far as I needed to. My imagination, which is part of my dismay with the program. I wanted that to be rigorous. But I certainly observed it, and I was like, okay, so in Black Girlhood Celebration, you'll see like the conclusions we came to as a way to plan on the worst of the structure showing up even amongst folks that look like you. We had to create, I don't know what now might be called community agreements, or I forgot what I call them in the book, rules. It was like the most controversial one was you can't tell a Black girl to be quiet. Shush a Black girl, never that. Like, just don't do it, because as folks would say when they were doing SOLHOT, they were like, and they like, when I asked them, like, did you tell her to be quiet? Did you say shut up? Like, where is that coming from as a moment of inquiry? And like, there's some really truthful, honest answers. Like, you know what? I did say that. I didn't mean to say that. Like, that was the spirit of, they would usually say they grandmama. Like, it just came through me. I was like, I believe you. Like, I believe you. And also, okay, what are we going to do? And we're just not going to do that as a rule and see what happens. And we never did. And I feel like that was one of the most important insights that we did in terms of practicing. Like, everybody was like, you can't ever tell Black girls in SOLHOT to be quiet. And that was such a pivotal moment for us all. We needed that to get to the freedom we experienced, for sure.
That's really powerful because of how much we get silenced. You're like, no, we're not doing that here. Yeah.
Yes.
I really love that. I'm curious too now to kind of switch gears a bit and talk about Black Girlhood Celebration, because this is the 16th year anniversary. So we want to definitely like give some love to Black Girlhood Celebration as just like a very critical text that, as you mentioned, this work really started off, kicked off, founded, was very central to Black Girlhood studies. And so I'm just curious, like, what did that work mean to you then, which you kind of have talked about in the hip-hop feminist part, if you want to speak to that a little bit, because you did also mention like the art, and I know you're very much an artist, you very much are into like doing music, you are in a musical group, so I also just want to honor that. But then too, how does this relate to your work with Black girls, and also just like where you see the field kind of going since its foundation, essentially?
Well, being an artist scholar is another one of the promises I made to myself as a postdoc, like in my introductions, because even today, it's still too hard to be an artist in the academy. Like, what is that about? And I was like, I am so much an artist, and felt like I had to downplay that part of myself or my creative process. And I was like, yeah, no, if I'm staying in the academy, is artist scholar, put that out front, let everybody know. And I'm so glad I did. Shout out to We Levitate the band. Thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning them. My colleagues who I love. And let's see, the hip hop feminist. Yeah, well, I grew up during the golden era. And so hip hop is just part of my being in the world. And also, when I was doing the SOLHOT sessions, I mean, that was one of those pivotal moments that I wrote about in terms of uh, someone saying that I was disrespected, and really, long story short, like she was actually quoting a rap lyric back to us, but it was from a song that I didn't listen to. And so I was thinking about, oh wow, I love hip hop and they do too, and we listen to totally different music. And I that night I went after Soul High, I just turned on the radio because I stopped listening to the radio. Um, and I heard the song she quoted back to me, and we didn't even know it was a song, like, until that moment. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." And then I went to say, "Well, who is it, like, Black girls speak through culture, hip hop is ours, like, who's writing about that?" And so thankful for the work of Joan Morgan and Kira Gaunt, who I'm sure I found in that deep dive of a session, just trying to say this is such a vital part of our interactions that thank goodness I can cite them and extend this, because they are hip hop and bringing it to Soul Hot as a contribution. And the fact that that was initially lost on me, given that particular lyric, opened up so many doors, and also so much understanding, which was documented in Black Girlhood Celebration. And that book is has my heart still, because I can remember so vividly the writing of that. And that
Mm.
often, in conversations around writing, people talk about it as laborious in a way, a discipline, and they need these rituals and all these things to get going. But that book for me, it was motivated by the freedom experienced in Soul Hot. And so my daughter, I had a baby at the time, and literally we would do Soul Hot. Soul Hot was so the sessions, just like otherworldly things were happening, that and we had some writers in the group. And even before I made it home, there'd be an email with just the most glorious description of what happened that day. There'd be the most thoughtful questions. Like, yeah, I literally heard and felt my grandma come through me to do this thing. And I don't even understand, Dr. B, how that happened. What does that mean? Like all these things. Like, so the words were coming. And then I also had words too, because as soon as and I guess that was the ritual. As soon as I put my baby down to sleep in the crib, I couldn't wait to get on the computer. I'm reading everything folks had sent that day. I'm thinking about what our curriculum was, how we were going to make the same thing happen. Could we make it happen again next week? Who was there? And writing that, and then just feeling like this is so incredible, I've got to write it down. Like, if I didn't write this, nobody will believe that this is happening, especially where we were, who we were, when it was. And so
Mm.
I wrote that entire book with that same energy and motivation at night, like my dad. So now I'm on the night shift, which was very significant
Mm.
and spiritually for me. And that book came out, and then I wrote the book, meaning I wrote it, and I was like, oh, what we were making in Soul Hot felt so leading edge, that I was like, it was more of the folks there wanting to honor them, what we made, what we created. And again, I'm thinking that this is not going to be still a thing that we're talking about in 2026. Like, I had no idea how long Soul Hot would be a thing. Really, it was just like, so we say that's one of the most profound questions that I get still to this day, which is, when is Soul Hot? Is Soul Hot happening? Like, there's no bigger question for me than that, because it takes so much to make it happen. But I had the book, and at that time, Peter Lang was the press that was publishing everything that was new, that was innovative, that was starting new discourses in the academy. And I was like, Peter Lang, I was so confident about wanting it to be with that press. And thanks to the editor, Sharon, I mean, it all worked out. But yeah, thank you for celebrating that book. It was just written as like, I just got it. I just got to get it out. That's how it came to the page.
Mm. Yeah, I do not, I have not written not one thing
that you are not cited in, like, honestly, truly. And one, that's to give you your flowers, but also to know that it has been so central to so many of our work as Black girlhood scholars. It's very relevant in 2026, just as much as it needed to be birthed in 2009. And so, yeah, I just have to celebrate that. And of course, like, Sweet 16 is a big deal for us, especially for Black girls. And so I'm like, this is a pivotal moment. Like, we have to honor this. I want to come to thinking about again where you have kind of seen the expansion of Black girlhood studies, of course, with Black Girlhood Celebration and Hear Our Truths. Like, where do you see the field going present day, or yeah, just how you see the impacts of that work into what we have like now created today.
I was writing that in homage to the folks who showed up. And it's like anything that's still relevant about that book is because of the brilliance of those girls, those people, that specific geographic locale,
Mhm.
that place. And I could not have predicted this, like that it would still be in circulation, that it would be cited by brilliant scholars such as yourself, that did not see that when I was writing it. So I just want to, I hope that is encouraging to folks, because I mean, this is why I say sometimes, like, I'm not the mentor that folks want to hear. Like, I have, like, folks are so professional now with it. That was just not the, I'm still not like that, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna be this is gonna do this, that. No, it just was, it was so much of a heart work. And even to the point to hear our truth. Like, that was my 10-year book. That was the book that had the disciplinary expectations on it. Black Girl Celebration was just something else. And so I don't know. I wish for folks in the academy to hear that too, because I'm a big believer in the something else. Actually, I think your something else project is probably the thing that is maybe going to have folks invite you to speak about it 16 years from now. I am excited about this podcast because I know it's something else. Like, yes. I hope we're going to um I hope we're going to the something else. Like, I honestly kind of secretly wished we were a bit deeper into the something else than we were, because I was like, yeah, yeah, like all the something else projects link up. I get really bored by the professionalization of so much. And I will also say, I wrote this thing called Black Girlhood Studies and named it as a way to be able to have the conversation in the academy that I want to have. But I'll say that for me, like, I I'm a stay Black. Also, I'm first generation to go to college
Mm.
in my family. And so I also cite that as a kind of freedom making possibility. It just did not mean as much like the institution itself as as sometimes as I experienced. It was important. Yes, it was celebrated. My family, like, they supported me as best they could. But I were also told things like, you got the BA for us and now you want to do this PhD, you taking it too far. Like, and I mean, back to my dad, I remember everybody, well, usually, hopefully no more, because I'm actually talking to students where you are, Ashley, because of your mentorship.
Mm.
They're like, oh, Dr. B, grad school is great. And I'm like, for real? They're like, it's lovely, it's beautiful. Like, so I am so encouraged in that, because of the work you're doing is changing the game in some really important, like, people-centered ways. But that, again, was not my experience. And I remember the first time I called home, like, I'm experiencing race and all this stuff. My dad was like, you could always come home. And in a like
Mm.
non-judgmental way, like, it was also like, their loss, you be better actually came home from. And so that also gave me, just enlarged my territory to play. And you got to know that, like, right, you can name a thing to be able to facilitate the conversations you want to have, But y'all, not too much on that institutional part. Like, not too much on that. Like, that is not, like, let us not ever, I guess, forget that that's not the ultimate goal. I did that so I could respond to the girls when So Hot was happening again. So when they would say, Dr. B, when it's so hot this Friday, I had to do some things in the academy to be able to respond to them in the affirmative. And one of those things I had to do was like work with folks and name a field, so we could keep this thing going, and then we could get grant money and really do it up. And they want to take the field trip. They didn't want necessarily to be involved in writing up of a research paper. And so I feel like what I would love to see more of is less getting caught up in some of the professional career traps now that this thing is named as a field, like, but also, yeah, you stay Black in that also, I guess would be my hope for where it is going, like Blacker even. And what are the things that we have to name so we could actually do the things that it is that the girls are asking us to do, that we want to do, that is something else, that is just something else.
Thank you for mentioning that, because I was going to ask you about the challenges which you've been speaking to so much. And I actually appreciate the realness here in the sense of like, we are at a place where we have a Black girlhood studies, and a lot of that does exist in the academy, but we can't forget what the academy has been and continues to be to us. And so are we staying right in it, in terms of like in it in community, in it in staying Black, right? Even in how we write the thing, or how we are continuing to maybe like use the resource and then go to that something else that you are talking about. But first and foremost is to stay rooted in what it is that the girls want to see, right? So yes, maybe we are in graduate school and trying to become a professor, but we can't remember that the publication matters more than the young Black girl that we are talking to or engaging with from the start. And I learned so much of that from you as well too. Even in my work, I'm like, if Black Girl Magic did not become a research site, I was absolutely okay with that, because just being with the girls, right, was first and foremost, like, period. And so I learned that truly from like Here Are Truths, and just knowing that like this thing can't matter more than us. And so as much as I'm so grateful for this beautiful field and all the beautiful work that we are doing, we can't get lost in the sauce of this academy thing. So I really appreciate you talking about that. I did want to come to where you are now as the chairperson at MSU and building out truly a Black Studies department that is centered on Black feminism and Black girlhood. We still don't see a lot of that in the academy either. And so once again, you are doing, of course, groundbreaking work that is truly like bringing us with you even when we are in the space. So I didn't know if you could just speak to a little bit about what it looks like to build up a department that, again, remembers us and never forgets us and keeps our stories at the center.
Thank you for that. And I'm aware of, I think for sure folks who are in relationship with me, know this differently, but I'm also aware of those listeners who maybe are just learning about Black Girlhood Celebration or SOLHOT. And I've, of course, experienced that more now as an inaugural chair, because to folks who don't know me or haven't read my work, like I look like a possibilities model of success. And I am, but not in the way that, meant that I like dotted every I, did everything that the institution asked me to do. And no, like, and I think actually it's not the professional development session that is going to, get you here if this is where you aspire. Like, I'm more like to understand how I got here. You gotta like, I'm gonna tap into Dawn Staley's Uncommon Favor. Like it is in that category. Because when I was doing research on Black girlhood as a doctoral student, folks were like, "Oh, you're never gonna be finished. You're never gonna get tenure." I heard you never gonna get tenure so much. It was like, you can't get tenure doing that. You can't get. I mean, that was the thing that followed me, and I heard that. I want to say sometimes I felt that. Sometimes, not most of the time. Most of the time I didn't stay there, but sometimes I absolutely did. And I'd be calling home or like I'm quitting, I'm out. It got to me, but never got to the best of me. And I'm big. I think this is also just kind of how I'm set up. Like I actually don't want the thing if I gotta get it a particular kind of way that I feel is not true to who I am. I don't want it then. Like, and I always kind of had that whatever, and this is how I'm set up. And I make grand claims about it because I don't know. Uh, but yeah, I also love where I'm from. So again, like going home, that was way better than where I was. To um, so yeah, so that really made a difference for me in my life, and um even what you just said about the department, and that was a line you used about bringing Black girls with us. Like somebody told me in a professional development, a senior mentor, and I like trust and love them so much. It wasn't even a negative vibe. But she was like, you just do everything counter. It's like, Ruth Nicole, you're not supposed to bring everybody with you the first time. You're supposed to go first. And then you bring people with you. And I was like, never occurred to me. Because even as an assistant professor, like people, I mean, we laugh about it now, but didn't I got an invitation to speak somewhere? Oh, how many people can come? Like, because it was not just me making SOLHOT. So that was the thing. Like, can you split up the honorarium? Oh, you can't get an honorarium. How like redistributing it this way? How many hotel rooms? Like, we got a car. Why? When you could fly? Well, because 4 people could fit in the car. Y'all paying for 1 seat on the plane. Like, and I'm going to bring everybody with me the first time. That has worked out for me. I again laugh about it now, especially as an administrator. Like, oh, I was asking for some things I didn't know I was asking for. And probably why maybe I didn't get invited to as many places as I would have, because I got to tell you, it costs more to bring a collective. This is also why I'm convinced we don't do as much collective work as we would if universities could afford to bring the collective so students can see it. Like, bring the other people who are helping to inform your ideas instead of the spotlit scholar. You need more hotel rooms. You do. And so I think that's part of it. And again, I know the power of what it is to name a thing. And I'm going to name Black Girlhood Studies because that is both specific enough to let you know, like, who and what's important, but it's also broad enough for it to be anything, which I needed to be, because again, I'm just not going to do the thing that is expected. And so I don't know, again, golden era, like I grew up with Little Kim. It's the jump off. Like, it's not supposed to be the destination. It is the jump off. Like, so because we name this thing, it's like, like that's where you can start easily from here. The institution has given us clearance to start from here. But I'm always interested in, like, okay, now, but where are we going? Like, that's when I get really excited. And so I'm thankful to those who worked, labored, organized to create the call. And the call was for a Black Studies department that emphasizes Black feminisms, Black genders, Black sexuality studies. I saw that call. I'm thankful for everyone who worked. And now that I'm here, I know how much work that was, how many generations of work that was. And so I'm like, yes, absolutely to that call. And then these are all the things that I'm bringing with me. SOLHOT is what made it possible for me to be here. I'm so very clear about that. It is SOLHOT, because SOLHOT is the kind of work that, for as much as it takes out of you, it also restores you, even to the point of overflowing. And the academy milestones just don't go that, they don't have that kind of reach or reciprocity. So it wouldn't even be a me here, bolder in my imagination, um, concise with what it is, um, that I do, and also knowing what I know, which I have to shout out Jessica Robinson. I mean, we got a line in one of our songs, I know what I know. Jessica wrote that, and she follows it with, just like in all the great artists like Shaka Khan, all like, if you listen to that, and I forgot what song it is. Oh gosh. She says, I know what I know, and then she chuckles. And it's the chuckle. That's what, you gotta be a reader. You gotta know Fred Moten. It's the scream. Like Hortense said, it's the scream. It's not like, yes, I know what I know, but it's in the chuckle, and we still chuckling. So that is also, yeah, why I'm bringing these things with me, and I was pretty unapologetic about that, because SOLHOT has made it possible for me to work with people to, I mean, just so many things, and yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. It's in the chuckle. I'm gonna carry that with me today. Like it's in the eye roll, it's in the
It's you.
the like we know what we know. No question. Yeah.
Sometimes they need an explanation. They want a theory, all that. I know what I know. It's in the chuckle.
I could talk to you all day, Ruth Nicole. This has been so beautiful, but I do want to give you a moment because you have been talking about coming back home so much, and I want to bring you back home to yourself as we get ready to wrap up. And so if you could have a moment, if you could time travel to go back and speak with your younger self, the young Black girl who would one day be the Dr. Ruth Nicole Brown that we all know and love, what do you think she would feel about everything that you have done and are continuing to do? Or maybe what's something you would tell her?
I know. I just welcome that invitation, and I went back to, I think 9 is such a magical age. Again, Diane Reeves 9. I went back to my 9-year-old self. Like, I'm on the bike, probably too early to be outside, waiting for folks to wake up, rolling solo, just like looping the block. And I would just be in the wind like, girl, you are not going to believe this.
Yes.
You are not going to believe so much of how your life turns out. You just would not believe it. I would just say to her, keep riding. Go faster. Stand up. I would say, hug your grandma tighter, because that hug is going to be everything. I would say, watch your grandfather in the garden. You'd be amazed at what you're learning. I would say, you feel really guilty about sneaking out of your bedroom to watch your father build stuff for the house at night. Don't be so guilty about that. Study those night lessons. Watch your father work those measurements. He measures what is it? Measure twice, cut once. That's an electrician's daughter. Like, you are going to keep doing that so many times. And I think she'd just be in awe. She'd be in awe.
Yeah. Oh, I got emotional listening to that. Keep writing, y'all. Keep writing. Wow, that was really, really beautiful. If you could, with just a little bit of time that we have left, just share a little bit of what you're working on right now.
So, SOLHOT has taken root in Michigan, and I mean, it's so organic as I wanted it to be here. I'm bringing the knowledge, but I'm not bringing like I'm open to the shape and the form it takes. And so SOLHOT is ongoing now. It's been what we've been doing SOLHOT for 2 years, working out of Flint and Lansing and East Lansing, and that's with a different group of folks. It's unexpected, and it is just as SOLHOT as it ever was. So I'm still doing that. I am also, as an administrator, really indebted to my collaborators for keeping that part of my academic intellectual life going. So I want to shout out the band. We Levitate, because the band is still together. We still making music. It sounds different. It will, yeah, they're with me. And so anytime folks see Blair Ebony Smith's work, you see SOLHOT, which is ours. And I'm excited in 2026 for Blair's book, Love and Loops. You can find them and everything they're doing. I'm excited about that. Emery Petchower and I have this ongoing project called Forms of Freedom, Freedom of Form, and we're doing so much work about how collectives sustain themselves over time. And we've written some about that. We're still writing about that. We're making with that now, which is really exciting. And then I also have an ongoing project with Sandra Ruiz, Letters Between Primas, and that really it's a lot of heavy, sophisticated theorizing and practical survival for Black and Brown women that we wrote to each other during COVID. And that project will see more light of day in 2026. As with continuing the on-build of the new Department of African American and African Studies at Michigan State University. And I am so absolutely excited for Squad, about Squad, and knowing that each of their respective works is just going to amplify our collective genius.
Most definitely. I'm familiar with a couple people in the squad, and I am like so obsessed and so impressed, and just can't wait to hopefully talk to them someday as well too. Where can we find you if folks want to get connected with you, Ruth Nicole? What's the best method? Where can we get in touch?
Well, there's the website, RuthNicoleBrown.com, and there's also R&B at MSU there. But my preferred way that you find me is outside. Like, let's go for a walk. Let's look at some clouds together. Let's have some big ideas. Let's talk about the something else things that we're all working on. You can find me in Flint, low key, when I just want to be like, I love Flint so much. It is a place to be for sure. And I'm doing this work of celebrating Black girls. I will say, if you find me in the inbox, that's not necessarily like preferred, but it is also a meeting place for beautiful things like this, to happen. So that's it. Everything else will probably be kind of a surprise to me too. So
yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much, Ruth Nicole. This has been an amazing conversation. I feel so grateful. I'm just so happy today. You definitely brought my energy up because it's gloomy and not so pretty outside right now. But this has truly been such heart-centered work. And really, this conversation has just brought so much joy. And so I hope that the listeners get to tap in and enjoy everything that you have given us today. For the listeners, I want to thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Rolling Archives podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at The Rolling Archives, all one word, and on our website at therollingarchives.org. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Like and share on YouTube as well. And we'll be back with another episode next week. Until then, may we keep rolling towards all the places that keep us whole. And remember, as Dr. Ruth Nicole Brown reminded us, to always return home, whether that be to ourselves, to our family, and just to our own forms of joy. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.